Hello! How is everybody doing? I hope you had a good day. I hope you've been getting all of the stuff done that you've wanted to. Anyway, I wanted to pop in today and talk about speaking thoughts into existence. Speaking thoughts into existence is literally what it sounds like. You take an idea, you take a thought, you take something that exists within your mind, and you speak it and you say, this is my thought, this is my idea. And the reason why that is so powerful is because you have thousands and thousands of thoughts that swirl around in your mind all day. Thousands of thoughts, okay? And so those thoughts exist in your mind very much in a conceptual way. You know, maybe you can visualize it, or they exist in a concept of feeling or belief, or you know, an idea or whatever, but it doesn't exist in actual language. And so there's nothing to really anchor to start to break down and analyze what that thought is, like what the source of that thought, or what the source of that emotion, or what the source of that belief is, right? So if you think about the problems that you're facing, the challenges that you're working to overcome, they all have a source. There is a source to every single problem or challenge or struggle, whatever you want to call it, okay? But as long as that source exists conceptually in your mind, you have no way to anchor to it and to break it down. And so when you start speaking your thoughts or your emotions into words, it gives you something to anchor to, because all of those concepts, all of those ideas, those beliefs, the emotions, whatever that exist conceptually in your mind, when you start speaking them, they get forced to go through your language center in your brain, okay? And so when it goes through your language center and it goes through that logic and that reason, you start to put a certain finite capacity to whatever that thought, idea, concept, belief is. When you put those loose-based, intangible ideas and beliefs through that logic, then you're able to start breaking it down with logic. You can't break down something without like concrete existence without having it. When you have that definition, you can start looking piece by piece by piece what is going into that thought. So if the idea that you think is, I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall because I'm not making any progress, right? If that's the thought that you have, then you start to break down what comes into that. Banging my head against the wall. I'm frustrated, right? Not making progress. Things aren't working. So then you can start breaking that down. I'm frustrated because something isn't working. What have I been doing? Okay, what have I been doing recently? And then you start tapping into like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all of the things that you've been doing recently. And you can break each of those things down and be like, was this working? Yes. Was this working? Yes. Was this working? Oh, that thing that I've been doing actually hasn't been working. That's why I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall, because I'm frustrated because stuff's not working. And the thing that's not working is this little thing over here. And so then you can address that little thing over here and be like, what do I do about this little thing to either like stop doing it or to turn it from something that's not working into something that is working, okay? And if you don't take that kind of like that feeling, that thought, that belief that's floating around in your brain and put a container to it and put it into words, then you're not going to pinpoint what the source of that problem is, okay? So when it comes to reprocessing and reprogramming the way that you evaluate and think about your thoughts and emotions and your actions, the first way to like get past that barrier of not knowing what to do is to actually speak that into existence, because it gives you something to anchor to. It gives you something to say, this is the problem that I'm facing. This is the emotion that I'm dealing with. Because when you have that, then you can start to shift it and change it. You can start to manipulate it and to make it something that is going to help you instead of something that is hindering you, okay? Ultimately, that's what it is all about. The game of growth, especially when it comes to fast growth or exponential growth, is identifying the things that are not working, the things that are hindering you. Because ultimately, you grow the fastest when all of the stuff that you engage in is stuff that is helping you, right? But if something is hindering you, that means it's not helping you. So you want to get rid of that. But in order to get rid of that, you have to know what it is first, okay? whether that exists in a cognitive capacity in the brain, the mind, whether it exists in an emotional capacity with the feelings, whether it's attached to a person or a place or a thing or whatever. The first thing to get that conceptual idea out of your mind and start to break it down is to have something to anchor yourself to. So you speak it. This is my thought. This is my emotion. This is my idea. This is like what I'm dealing with. And then you analyze it. It's really like, it's that simple, okay? And maybe you don't know how to do that yet, and that's okay. You know, like that's something that you can get help with. If that's something that you want to learn how to do, there are plenty of ways to make that happen. Honestly, if you go out and you read enough books and you watch enough YouTube videos, you listen to enough podcasts, you start to pick up some of that stuff. There's not just one way to do it, but if you want to have it happen faster, if you want to know the specific things that are holding you back right now, the best way to do that is to have someone sit down with you, and have them like look at your thoughts and ideas and beliefs and hold up a mirror and say, hey, do you see this thing that is going on in your world? Because ultimately, like our brains, our minds, they don't like identifying the stuff that isn't working, because that means that they'll have to change it. Our brains don't like change. We don't like change. We don't like doing different stuff. We like what's comfortable. That's what we're programmed for. That's how we function, is on comfort and consistency and like things being constant, okay? But growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from leaving what is comfortable. And our brains will fight us like to the death. The mental gymnastics that I have seen other people do and that I've done myself to avoid identifying the thing that's holding me back, or that someone is, you know, using to hold themselves back, the brain will go all over the place, jumping up and down, side to side, running around in circles to avoid identifying the thing that must be changed in order to leave the comfort zone and to grow faster, right? So if you want to identify that thing faster than spending hours listening to podcasts or watching YouTube videos or reading books, sit down with another person and have them hold up that mirror and say, hey, do you see this thing? Because when you see it, then you can't ignore it anymore. And when you can't ignore it, then you can start changing it. And when you start changing, you start growing. And the more often you do it, the faster you grow. The more consistently you identify the things that are holding you back, the more you can shift them into things that are helping you grow. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. Anyway, I hope y'all got some value from this. And if you have anything that you want to like bounce off me, hit me up in the DMs, drop a comment. I'd love to talk to you. All right, take care.